Alibaba has just completely rebuilt Qwen Cloud from the ground up. And honestly, the biggest takeaway right out of the gate is this. It's no longer just built for chatting. At their 2026 Cloud Summit, Alibaba relaunched this huge platform, and they've completely transformed it from your standard chat interface into what is essentially an agent-first control room. We're not talking about a minor model update here. This is a fundamental architectural shift that puts autonomous AI front and center in this explainer. We are officially moving from an AI that just talks to an AI that does. Just imagine having a digital workforce at your fingertips, rather than just a really smart digital dictionary. So here is our roadmap for the next 8 minutes or so. 1, we'll look at the agent-first shift. 2, we'll go inside the core platform. 3, we'll check out some practical agent workflows. 4, we'll cover the limitations and trade-offs. And 5, we'll look at the agent race ahead.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1, the agent-first shift. You know, for the past couple of years, our primary interaction with AI has been purely conversational. We ask a question, it answers. Actually, scratch that, it just returns text. But what if AI didn't just answer you, but actively acting on your behalf? We're moving away from an AI that merely spits out chat responses to an AI that goes out and executes multi-step, complex tasks completely autonomously. It's kind of like the difference between asking someone for a recipe and having them literally go to the grocery store, buy all the ingredients, and cook the meal for you. It doesn't just tell you how to do the thing, it actually does the whole shebang. And Qwen Cloud has just put a very serious piece of infrastructure behind that exact idea. To really grasp the sheer scale of this relaunch, just consider the number 150. Because there are now over 150 different AI model APIs housed under one single roof. And think of an API as a kind of digital bridge that lets different pieces of software talk to each other without us humans needing to intervene. Plus, it's not just Alibaba's proprietary Qwen models in there. They've integrated outside models as well. By bringing all these bridges into one central hub, they've essentially built a massive, unified engine room designed specifically to power these new agent workflows at a scale we haven't really seen before.
All right, moving on to Section 2, inside the core platform. Let's see what makes this tick. So what is actually powering all of this under the hood? Well, Qwen Cloud acts as your dedicated control room. You can put different models side by side and compare things like parameters, which you can basically think of as the raw brainpower or the total number of neural connections within the model. You can also compare context length. Now, context length is just how much information the AI can keep in its working memory at one single time. A massive context length means the AI can read through hundreds of pages of dense documents without forgetting what was on page 1. The big headline model driving this new phase is Qwen 3.7-Max, which is currently in preview. And Alibaba is explicitly positioning this model as a heavy-duty engine for long, complex jobs. It's built for the exact kind of continuous, high-focus work that historically required a human to constantly babysit the AI and prompt the next step. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the claim attached to that new engine. It's honestly staggering. Based on Alibaba's internal testing, Qwen 3.7.Max can maintain a continuous task horizon of up to 35 hours. Let that sink in for a second. That means the agent can run uninterrupted on a single, incredibly complex workflow for nearly a day and a half. It can spend 35 straight hours researching, coding, testing, and debugging without drifting off course, without forgetting its original instructions, and without losing the thread of the complex task you gave it. It is entirely an endurance play. But here's the thing, a massive model alone isn't enough to act autonomously. It needs hands, right? It needs tools to interact with the real world. And that brings us to the structural wrapping around the model. First up, Alibaba introduced a skills system. They've converted capabilities from over 60 of their cloud products into a format that agents can call on directly, which essentially gives the AI a massive automated toolbox. Second, there's a dedicated command line interface, or CLI. This lets developers completely bypass the chat window and wire agents directly into the backend of their existing workflows. And finally, wrapping the whole thing together is the JVAce Agent Suite. Think of this as the continuous manager, a toolkit designed to let these systems run in the background 24/7, coordinating across different apps completely seamlessly. And this entire stack natively speaks a vital, absolutely game-changing new language called MCP, or the Model Context Protocol. This is a massive standardization effort for the entire AI industry right now. It means Qwen Cloud agents are built to seamlessly plug right into external tools, coding assistants, and complex systems that live well outside of the Alibaba ecosystem. It completely removes the friction of having a model trapped in its own little isolated bubble. It's literally like giving the AI a universal translator for every piece of software you already use.
Which brings us to Section 3, Practical Agent Workflows.
Okay, so infrastructure and protocols are fascinating, but how does this autonomy actually work in practice? Let's move out of the abstract engine room and look at exactly how you'd use these tools today. Here is a perfect real-world example, the research to draft pipeline. Step 1, you give the agent a single high-level goal, like say researching the latest developments in solid-state batteries. Step 2, instead of just vomiting out a fast text response, the agent autonomously pauses, plans, and breaks that goal down into logical subtasks. Step 3 is where the magic really happens. The skills layer uses MCP to actively call external search tools, crawl the web, and process thousands of documents to gather and organize all that data. And finally, step 4, it outputs a fully structured draft, complete with accurate citations, ready for human review. No manual copying and pasting between 20 different browser tabs required. Let's move to and see how this builds into an even more dynamic workflow, the personal tutoring loop. Imagine a student uploads a chapter of incredibly dense textbook notes. The agent uses its massive context window to instantly summarize the material and map out the conceptual weak points. Then, it automatically generates a custom quiz to test the student. But here is the absolutely crucial agentic behavior. When the student gets an answer wrong, the agent doesn't just mark a big red X and move on to the next question. It dynamically pivots. It autonomously re-explains the specific missed concept from an entirely new angle, maybe using a different analogy, and it continues to do so until genuine understanding is actually achieved. Now, if you look closely at both of those workflows, there's a very deliberate, crucial pattern. The agent plans, the agent gathers, and the agent executes, but a human remains squarely in the loop at the final checkpoint for approval. Alibaba is actively advising enterprise teams to design all their agents exactly this way. Look, handing over the heavy lifting is incredibly efficient, but human checkpoints, they aren't just nice to have, they are the safety rail that keeps the train on the tracks. You want the AI doing 99% of the grueling groundwork, sure, but you still absolutely need a human conductor signing off before anything final goes out the door.
So, Section 4, Limitations and Trade-offs. We've got to be real here.
Because it is absolutely vital that we step back and evaluate these bold claims objectively. Let's start with those really impressive numbers we talked about earlier. The 35-hour task horizon. The benchmark rankings putting Qwen 3.7 Max 5th globally in general intelligence and first among Chinese-made models. Look, these are incredibly strong signals of intent from Alibaba. But we impartially have to note that these remain internal claims. Until these exact figures go through rigorous, independent third-party verification by outside researchers, we really should treat them as highly impressive targets to test in the real world, rather than absolute guaranteed facts.
And this brilliantly illustrates our second major trade-off, a big shift in accessibility. Historically, the Qwen family built a ton of goodwill by releasing open-weight models that developers could freely download, tweak, and just run locally on their own machines. Qwen 3.7 Max, however, is a clear pivot in their strategy. It's a closed model, locked behind an API, without permissive licensing. This transition from an open ecosystem to a closed one is a notable change in direction for sure, and it sparked a pretty active debate within the open source community that helped champion this model family in the first place.
Then, there's the overarching risk inherent in the entire agent race, regardless of which developer is behind it. When you hand over autonomy, you are handing over minute-by-minute supervision. Think about a silent cascade of errors. Let's say an AI agent is tasked with drafting a super complex legal document. If it makes a subtle misjudgment or misinterprets a minor clause in step 2 of a 50-step process, that single error can silently cascade through the remaining 48 steps. Because the process is totally autonomous, a human might not even lay eyes on it until the very end, by which point the final output is deeply, deeply flawed. That is the fundamental operational risk we all have to navigate as we embrace these new systems.
And finally, Section 5, the agent race ahead.
As we wrap up this explainer, it's pretty clear this launch doesn't exist in a vacuum. From Western frontier labs to global competitors, building agent-first architecture is rapidly becoming table stakes for the entire AI industry. It is going to fundamentally change how we work on a day-to-day basis. Which brings me to a question I really want you to seriously think about right now. If you could hand off just one tedious, multi-step task to an autonomous AI agent completely, something that just drains your time every single week, what would it be? I genuinely want to hear your answers to that question. So please like, share, and subscribe, please. And drop a comment in the comment box below with the task you'd automate.
Getting a grip on this new agent infrastructure is just the opening move in this massive race. So make sure you subscribe to ensure you don't miss our upcoming deep dive into exactly where this technology is heading next. Keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.